What would it be like if you couldn't do all of the things that you take for granted each day? If you stopped being able to do laundry or cook for yourselves? Doing dishes and bathing and dressing yourself become impossible? What if you are bedbound for years, unable to even sit up without passing out? While also knowing that there was no one that could help you and no doctor that could save you. Dysautonomia affects over 70 million people worldwide, and yet no one's heard of it. Please help us in spreading awareness so that we can start ending the suffering. It could happen to you, your mother, or your daughter, or your friend.
Hi, I'm Sandra, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about dysautonomia. Dysautonomia refers to a wide range of conditions that affect the autonomic nervous system. Over 70 million people worldwide live with some form of dysautonomia. While there is no cure at this time, Dysautonomia International is funding research to help find better treatments and hopefully find a cure. There are about 15 different types of dysautonomia. I'm not going to get into all of those here. Primary dysautonomia is usually inherited due to a degenerative disease or from another condition. It usually leads to things like fainting and other problems, and that affects millions of people globally. There is no single treatment to address all dysautonomia. Some common symptoms of dysautonomia are the inability to stay upright, dizziness, vertigo, fainting, chest pain, low blood pressure, nausea, visual problems, gastrointestinal issues, weakness, breathing problems, mood swings, anxiety, fatigue, intolerance to exercise, migraines, tremors, sleeping problems, urinating issues, temperature regulation issues, memory issues, poor appetite, overactive senses with lights and sounds, and to be honest, probably over 100 other symptoms that each of us complain about. Some of these symptoms can be really scary as well as debilitating. Some of them even mimic things like heart attacks and strokes. Because we have so many symptoms in different areas of our body, it's very hard to diagnose. A lot of it sounds like a form of severe anxiety to most medical people. One type of dysautonomia that even I was diagnosed with after 10 years of searching for help is called POTS, which stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. It affects between 1 in 3 million in the US, and 80% of those cases are female. It also affects people with autoimmune conditions. The symptoms of POTS can include lightheadedness, fainting, tachycardia, abnormal heart rate, chest pain, shortness of breath, stomach upset, shaking, easily agitated, sensitivity to temperature changes, and a list of hundreds of more symptoms that even all of us with POTS complain about all the time. POTS is normally a secondary type of dysautonomia, and researchers have found high levels of autoimmune markers in people with POTS. You can get it from a genetic mutation. You can get it from diabetes. You can get it from EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Lyme disease, pneumonia, a whole slew of different viruses that you can get it from. Right now, researchers cannot agree on if it's an autoimmune problem or if it's from a genetic source. When you Google POTS, it won't tell you much. If you'd like to learn more from the experts themselves, go to YouTube and look up POTS story or My Life with POTS, and you will find all kinds of our stories. And it's really only then that you can understand how this affects our lives, and to such a horrible degree sometimes. And it would explain why we need the help we need. You'll learn that most of us end up having to try to be our own doctors because there are none. And there's only a few doctors that actually specialize in POTS. And it takes years to get in to see them, and sometimes even they can't help, or insurance won't cover it. A number of different reasons. The reason why spreading awareness is so incredibly important about this condition is because people like me have to wait several years, and sometimes over decades, to even be treated like we are not crazy and get a proper diagnosis and start a valuable treatment plan. In the meantime, people have no choice but to self-medicate by learning from each other on social media on how to better treat themselves and how to get rid of these horrible sensations going on in their bodies. So many of us have developed PTSD just from being mistreated by medical people over and over again, and then feeling like you're coming so close to death and not being able to get the proper help for it. Think of how it must feel to have dangerous symptoms like when your blood pressure drops into the 60s, or when our pulse is so high it puts strain on the heart and makes your troponin levels go up, stresses your heart out. What about the long-term effects of not having enough oxygen in our brain? And if you go to doctors, to only constantly be called crazy, labeled with different mental issues like Munchausen syndrome, put into mental facilities, all because medical people don't have a clue of what this is or how it works. And this is why right now we need your help to share awareness, spread education, and really save our lives. Imagine going through that for many years on end, holding on, barely, with no help in sight. How would you feel? We have been laughed at, ridiculed, and even harassed by a lot of medical people. All of our stories are the same across the board. They tell us we're making up our illness for attention, when all you want is help. I don't want to keep seeing those with POTS and other forms of dysautonomia keep committing suicide. It breaks my heart every time I see it. We don't look sick on the outside. I was even bedbound for a number of years, and you would never know that. I'm having symptoms right now, and you can't see that. I'm asking for your help. We see walks and money raised and awareness raised for so many conditions and so many diseases. Let's make this one more. Thank you for sharing your love with us.